Welcome to 2 Minutes of Gaming, where we talk about the top video game topics of the month for 2 minutes at a time. I'm your host, Keenan, and today I'm joined by
Justin. How's everybody doing?
And everything going well. Got a lot to talk about today. Obviously, the new consoles that's coming out this year, and also a new console, brand new by Amazon, just announced today before the show, which is crazy. So we literally had to add it in last minute. But we're going to save that for the end if y'all want to hear about Amazon's new console. Well, not really console, but you hear about it. We're going to start out today's show with the hottest news probably right now in gaming. Microsoft buying ZeniMax Media, which is the parent company of Bethesda, ID Software, amongst other companies. Justin, this really puts them in a great position for their new console. Is it a big deal, or is everyone hyped about nothing? 2 minutes on the clock, Justin.
I mean, I'm not much of a Bethesda fan, so I don't really play much of their games. So for me personally, it's not a big deal. But for those who are fans of Fallout, Skyrim, and whatever, and a lot of the other titles, yeah, this is huge for them. I think it's a good acquisition because if you can't beat them with your own original IPs, and I think one of the CEOs said it best, instead of us keep making new studios and doing everything else, you might as well just start acquiring other studios and have them work for you. So, I mean, it's a good step in the right direction, especially if they decide to make it have those studios have exclusive games to Xbox. I can see that actually working for them. For me, it's not much of a big deal because, like I previously said, I haven't really played much of their games. So, but for those fans, I know some people are worried on the Sony end. I heard people say, "Oh my God, Sony's over. It's done." Like, one studio cannot kill a major corporation. Granted, they have some classics on their hands, but I'm curious to see what's going to happen. I know Bethesda is going to be Microsoft said they're going to be semi-independent. I mean, they'll still get to keep their way, they make their games and culture, but I'm very curious to see what's going to happen.
I'm going to reference another amazing development team studio that Microsoft bought and kind of ruined. And I'm talking about Rare. And now this is not going to be a Rare situation, but I really do think that they need to leave them alone, leave Bethesda alone, let them do what they do. I'm similar to you, Justin. Like we're more big on Japanese RPGs, not Western RPGs, but I do understand Bethesda has a huge following. Fallout's great. Obviously, they also acquired Doom, Wolfenstein, and one game that we actually are interested in, The Evil Within. I got part 1, didn't get part 2, and you never know. Like part 3 could be something that I'd be thinking like, wow, maybe we should have got an Xbox. So overall, I think it is a good move. Microsoft, they had to do something. But is it doomsday? No. Back to Sony. PlayStation 5 showcase was about a week ago, something like that. And they finally gave us a price. They finally gave us a date, $400 and a $500 console with disc. Kind of like we expected with a November 12th release date, kind of what we expected. What's your thoughts on this? And also, what were your thoughts on the showcase, Justin?
First of all, I expected the price to be that range, $400 and $500. I didn't think it was going to be $600 to $700. As far as the games, I'm really excited for certain titles such as Spider-Man Miles Morales. Of course, the new God of War, Ragnarok, I think is going to be amazing. Yeah. Final Fantasy 16 looks good. I'm really kind of getting tired of the medieval crystal type of thing. I think at the 16 games, I think the reason why 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are so loved is because they just went off the rails from the medieval type of times. So it would have been nice if they would have continued that trend. I think $500 for the disc though is just like GameStop's not going to be much around, so I guess people are going to be buying the disc from Best Buys and Amazon, I guess. But for me, I'm definitely going to be getting the digital only copies.
Yeah, digital only for me as well. That's a no-brainer right there. The only appeal for me for this would be like I do have a lot of Blu-rays and DVDs, so I'm like, whatever. But anyway, on a side note, I'm excited for it. I think this showcase was a little weak to me because they were just showing games that we already seen, and it was like Call of Duty every year. You have like a 20-minute Call of Duty thing. But Final Fantasy 16, it did get me hyped. I'm not gonna lie. But then after looking at it more and more, I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm gonna buy this new. God of War. Man, if you actually got the special ending for the previous God of War, you know what's gonna happen to Ragnarok. You know it's about to be crazy. And overall, that was my favorite God of War, honestly, out of all of them. So that was a really good game. So, like I said, it's going to be good. But the thing is, Justin, you mentioned Spider-Man, Final Fantasy. Those are games that are looking like they're going to be on PS4 as well. Yeah. So that kind of kills some of the hype as well. But overall, Sony's doing their thing. But I'm not jumping out the window to pre-order, unlike other people, which I'll talk about later. Switching back over to Microsoft, Xbox Series X, Series S, price and date was leaked first on Twitter, and then the next day, Microsoft came out on Twitter and just confirmed what was already leaked. A $300 Microsoft Xbox Series S, and then Series X will be the normal price of $500, competing with the PS5. So Justin, what's your thoughts on the Series S and Series X? Is there a place for the S?
I mean, for someone like me who might consider getting it, that would probably be the one I'm getting. $300 doesn't seem that bad. I mean, that's close to a Nintendo Switch price. So that's something, if I really want to, have the Microsoft catalog games in there and I don't want to use my PC, that might be something I might want to do and something I want to probably invest in. Let's talk about these names, though, because these names is just confusing. Xbox One, that's what it's called, and then you got Xbox Series S, Xbox. Why can't you just do like Sony did and just call it Xbox One, Xbox Two, things like that? It's just really, really confusing. I think the 500, if you're going to get it for Microsoft, I think that's something you really want to get it for, especially just really get more bang for your buck, especially with more with Microsoft with processing power, things like that. I would think you should go with the 500 if you're going to get it.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I love what Sony did previously, which we talked about, was the 400, 500. They're pretty much the same system except for the disk drive, right? Who cares? Mm-hmm. But now the S and the X is completely different systems. We're talking about, I think they're going to have the same GPU, but the rest is going to be different, or vice versa, or the CPU is going to be the same and everything else is different. But we're talking about, you're going to play the games slower, load times, etc. It's going to be a great experience still, but it's going to be way different. But I love what they did with the S, because right now it's priced at $300. In a year or two from now, it's going to be down to $200, from $300 to $200. And then when you look at that with Game Pass, you're looking at the best deal in gaming. You're looking at a $200 system with a $10 a month subscription to get you over 100 games. At that time, it would probably be over 200 games. So I think that if you're, again, more of a, maybe your main console is the Switch, maybe your main console is the PS5, this is a good second system to get at a really good price. I think it's a genius move for Microsoft to sneak in the back door. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of Nintendo, they had a couple of reveals. We're talking more about the other ones later. But one that was really interesting was Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Now, for those who don't know, it's going to be more of a prequel to Zelda's Breath of the Wild. So, Justin, what's your thoughts on this? Is this just another, Dynasty Warriors clone, or is this something that really got your attention?
This really got my attention, especially since I just recently beat Breath of the Wild. And I think this is, for me, the best Zelda game, period, because for a while, Twilight Princess was my favorite. But this one, I think, just by the way the lore is, the continuity, everything that they really brought into this Zelda game, I think that Hyrule Warriors is really going to show that kind of, it's minor spoilers, it's a very sad Zelda story. It's really sad, especially when you find out what happens to these warriors that were with Link during this time. It's a very sad. It's going to be like you're playing it and you know their fate and you know what's going to happen to them. So I'm really excited to see how this, first of all, this bond happened and how these characters interact with each other. As far as gameplay wise, I've heard they've been working with, according to articles I read, they've been working very, very closely for the first time with the Zelda team that's developing Breath of the Wild and that developed Breath of the Wild and Breath of the Wild 2. So Nintendo does have their hands in this one. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Dude, I love it. I think when we look, everyone's thirsty for Breath of the Wild 2 news. Nintendo's been great about showing us the game and then releasing it like 2 months later. You know what I mean? So, give them a lot of props on that. So I feel like once we see Breath of the Wild 2, it'll be like, hey, it's coming out 6 months or 5 months. So that's actually really cool. But listen, this is such a great story. Probably, maybe you can argue one of the best Zelda stories, if not the best Zelda story, and to see a prequel for it and also a sequel. I mean, by the time part 2 comes out, we're going to be so invested into this world. And let me tell you, Justin, as a developer, I love what they did. So, for instance, Dying in the Dark, right? I was working on a preview. I kind of paused it, a prequel for that as well. But I wanted to give it a different gameplay spin. And a lot of times when you're doing a prequel or some kind of side or sub story, it's good to give it a complete gameplay spin, but also tell that same story. So I think this is going to be very refreshing. I would actually, knowing what I know about that war, I would actually prefer this gameplay style over the traditional Zelda style. No. Big news today, just released, hot off the press. Amazon's new cloud gaming service will be called Luna. Exactly. Just to kind of give you an idea, it's like I said, a cloud gaming service similar to Stadia. It will start at $5 a month and include channels and Twitch integration. So, for instance, at the moment, they announced Ubisoft will have a channel. I have a lot to say about this, but Justin, I'm going to let you go first. What's your thoughts on Amazon Luna?
I mean, the Twitch integration might work because Amazon owns Twitch. So that was obviously going to be inevitable. That's smart of them to do that. So, they're usually probably going to have the Twitch streamers and, the ones that they sponsor, like, hey, you're going to start, streaming this on Luna and as well as Twitch. I don't know if they learned from Stadia. I really don't know if they learned from Stadia because Stadia is broken. And cloud gaming so far has proven not to be the best. It's just I don't think it has the power right now or the technology right now, but who knows? It could work. I mean, they're really big on like Resident Evil 7. It's going to be one of the launch titles that you guys can play. And I'm just like, no, why would I want, for me, if I already have the consoles, why do I want to cloud stream it? Like, oh, you can play it on your iPhone. I don't care. I just wait till I go home. I have a Switch Lite if I want to bring a game with me. Just for me personally, there's no reason for me to have the cloud, the cloud. But for those who don't have consoles, this might be something, but I still have no faith in it right now. I mean, I like the name. The name is nice. I like Luna, but otherwise, I don't know, man. I'll skip in this.
Yeah, it's so funny because I keep seeing Stadia commercials, and I always think to myself, a company like Google, which everybody uses Google, everybody loves YouTube, Google, everybody loves them, right? All they had to do was come out with a little box and a controller and say, hey, here's our new system. It's downloadable only, and there's a streaming option. And you can easily, you would have sold way more consoles like that. I'm not saying you would have beat Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo, but you would have at least had a place. And people don't understand is like what Amazon and Google are trying to do, they're trying to jump over the big three, right? Now, when you look at Microsoft, which is the last of the big three to come, they didn't jump over anybody that was currently there. They got in line. They were behind Sony. They were behind everybody, Nintendo. They got in line and they said, we're gonna develop some amazing IP, Halo. We're gonna develop, really focus on online gaming. You know what I mean? These are the things that really help Microsoft and propel them to be able to have an Xbox 360. You know what I mean? These people just want to jump over everyone's head. And again, Google should have showed Amazon that this is not what gamers want. And honestly, Justin and I, we do a show, as you can see, we're hardcore gamers, and it is hard for us to even explain what the hell this is. So the fact that we're having trouble explaining it just shows the average consumer. We're going to talk about more about the Xbox situation later, but the person who is mixing up Xbox Series X with Xbox One X is really going to mix this up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then the last thing I'll say about this before we move on to a lighter topic, the last topic, the channels is going to be like microtransactions, Justin. Mark my words. Ubisoft. So again, it starts at $5, right? Ubisoft have a channel, right? Okay, maybe that's included. But you don't think there's going to be like an HBO type channel where EA says, hey, we have an EA Plus channel. If you want to subscribe to this, you got to pay $5 more. Oh, if you want to subscribe to 2K and you can get Red Dead early or whatever, you got to pay $20. Or, you know what I mean? Like this is going to get so stupid. And guess what? This is not what console gamers want.
Huh.
Have fun, Amazon. Last round, for those who don't know, new to the show, is our freestyle round. We open the floor up, and at that point, we can talk about whatever's on our mind. Justin, you have anything you want to get off your chest before we end it?
You know, I was just thinking. I was thinking about Chrono Trigger. Believe it or not, I want a remake. I would like a remake. I was thinking about a lot of these titles. Because I was playing the Super Nintendo on the Switch, and they just released, of course, the Mario All-Stars.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, that was probably the first remake without being called a remake, because it updated the graphics of Super Mario 2, and Super Mario 3.
Yeah.
So technically, you could think of it as a remake or remaster, but I was just thinking, I was like, there's so much remakes coming out. Where's Chrono Trigger? Like, where's the Chrono Trigger remake? And I'm really, really waiting to see. I'm excited about Tokyo Game Show. I'm really hoping that they show the next Tales game. I've been fiending for another Tales game. I mean, I love Final Fantasy to death, but I think I've seen enough Final Fantasy for a while. I'm like Final Fantasy out right now. Mm-hmm. And also, for those who are watching this right now, if you have a PlayStation 4, there is a big Japan sale out there. Get your anime games, some RPGs out there. Definitely really good sale. Highly recommend it. And Keenan, what are your thoughts on the rumor of Metal Gear Solid 1 for the PlayStation getting remade for the PlayStation 5?
Yeah, I saw that. Metal Gear Solid is one of my favorite games of all time, but Kojima is not there. And again, they don't need the Kojima. They're just going to remake the game. But I just don't trust that company, man. Like, I feel like they're going to mess up the gameplay. It'll become like some kind of shooter or something. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be like zombies in it somehow again. I just don't trust them. I would have to wait for reviews.
I think the zombie thing was out of spite, just to say F you to Kojima, though.
Well, they might mess up part 1 then.
I mean, that was a waste of money to do that, but still.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't played Metal Gear Solid 1, please go get that. But I just want to say, as far as like Justin, I totally agree with you about remaking some of those SNES classic RPGs, and that's why when I saw the Super Mario 35, the anniversary, they announced all those amazing games. Great, I'm so happy. Those are great games. But where the hell is Super Mario RPG? It's like, can I just have a remake? And again, I know you have the Paper Mario series and Mario and Luigi's, but I want that specific game made over. Okay? Simple. And again, I know Square helped with it, so there may be some contract issues there that I don't know about. But yeah. And then I just want to say this too, Justin. I agree with you with the Xbox names. I mean, for those who don't know, there was a story out there that the Xbox One X has gone up 700% in sales. Now, when we said this, and other podcasts said this months ago, everyone laughed at us. And people were like, oh, people aren't that stupid, and it's not going to be that, there's going to be a guy at Best Buy that says this is the new Xbox and blah, blah, blah. Like Microsoft, I think they're doing a lot of things right, but they're not this console. But the console after this, they have to get this naming stuff right. And if you're not going to, and then here's the thing, Justin, if you're not going to go, like Sega, right? Sega didn't do Genesis Part 2 or Genesis Part 3. They did Sega Saturn, Sega CD, Sega Dreamcast. Okay, but those are completely different names. You know what I mean? Those are completely different names. When you say an Xbox, if you don't know anything, Justin, if I say which one is new, Xbox One X or Xbox Series X, the average Joe Schmo has no idea. There's no indication of which one is superior.
They got so much syllables in their names too, like PlayStation, easy to say, PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch. Let me get the Xbox Series X, it's just simplify it. It makes it easy. You could have just called it Xbox Revolution or Xbox this,
Like, hey, you're gonna get that Revolution, or hey, you're gonna get. But the last company I'm gonna get on real quick before we go is Nintendo. I'm on probably the most popular Nintendo Switch Facebook group. I think it's like almost 1 million people in there. It's like super busy. It's like 200 comments every post. It's crazy. And you know how many people complain in the U.S. about Switches being sold out in their specific area? The
I had
Switch,
that problem too, bro.
you've recently had that problem. You got lucky, you got it. But there are some people who aren't lucky. They don't live in New York City or California, so where like a big city. They live, in the middle of America, where if the local Walmart doesn't have it, they're screwed, and they have to pray that Target has it, and that Target probably has a small video game out. You know what I mean? So I'm saying all that to say Nintendo needs to get it together with their console and make sure that it's readily available. Because once November comes, when these new systems are out, they're going to be the hot stuff. And Nintendo, while people are looking now, you need to get as much cash and as many people have this system in their hands. Because if they're getting pissed trying to find it, and they say, you know what, forget it, I'll just wait. They're going to wait, and you're not going to get that sale. But then also, too, more importantly, you're not going to get them to buy Animal Crossings and Marios and Zeldas and etc. At this point, they're going to be like, why would I want to play these cartoon graphics? I'm going to go play PS5 and Xbox One. Excuse me. See, I almost said it. Xbox Series X. I'm done. Thanks, everyone, for listening and watching the show. I really appreciate you guys. And until next week. Until next month, excuse me.
Later days, folks.